I'm back in the room.
Back in the room. Okay.
Firstly,
and back in the room on the 39th time. Blimey.
Well,
39 times back in the room.
Right. Yeah.
As in 39 episodes. Blimey.
Well, when this comes out, this is going to be episode I don't know what, because we record.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
We record and we put out in a different order. So this is the Wednesday after what we have in the States as Memorial Day, which I believe is Labor Day. It's a bank holiday in the UK as well.
Oh, okay. No, it's not here.
So that happened this week. So by the time this goes out, it's going to be way past that. But what Memorial Day means in the States is that it's the official start of summer. So we actually have like a date where we go, summer's here.
Okay.
And it's really interesting because I was away down in DC for my brother-in-law's funeral, and when we came back to New York, everyone had changed their wardrobe. Like they'd gone, right, summer's here, wardrobe change, everyone. And it was like that. So when the seasons change in New York, you tend to find that people will change roughly around the same time. They'll change their seasonal clothes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I kind of feel like I have, because I've been wearing my little beanie hats or whatever all winter long, for many episodes now. It's now time to officially change my beanie hat into my summer hat.
Nice. I feel a song coming on.
So now I'm in my baseball, my classic summer baseball vibes now.
I feel a song coming on. It's David Bowie. Changes.
Yes.
Changes.
And then the other thing that I wanted to quickly say was that, as I said, I was down in DC for my brother-in-law's funeral. Now, he was in the military, so it was a military funeral, which is very different to any other funeral that I've been to. But there was kind of this one humorous, I thought was humorous. I may have been the only one in the room who thought it was funny. But so I will tee it up by kind of saying, right, so my brother-in-law, he was a great guy. Anyway, so he was this was a military funeral. So you get the 21 gun salute.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you get the guns, right? They're going off. Their funerals, the military funerals, there's no talking. It is literally just silence mostly. So it's the guns, and they're popping off, and then you get the last call on the bugle. And that goes on for a while, and that's
bang on the note. That was bang on note wise.
Was it? All right.
What's to my ears?
Thank you.
Think about.
Everyone outside in the square.
Just broad appreciation.
Yeah. Oh, that's very nice. And then they do the holding of the flag ceremony, right? So you get a huge flag. I don't know whether you've seen it in the movies or not.
I've seen it because it gets folded into a triangle.
That's right. So it gets kind of slowly folded into a triangle, and this takes a while, right? And it's silence. There's no music. There's nothing. There's just the sound of this kind of cloth being kind of like folded, and then one person's phone goes off.
Right.
That was the ringtone.
No way. No, that's hilarious.
And then she was fumbling around in a bag and then turned it off. Right.
God.
And we went, ugh. And I thought, God, of all the
ringtones.
ringtones, that one was just like, like you could spend an hour trying to find the ultimately wrong ringtone to play or whatever.
But that's probably the worst I could think of.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a circus.
Right.
Right. It's just if that ringtone has a name, it'd be circus ringtone.
Well, it
Not
has a name.
Open brackets, not funeral.
Right.
Close brackets.
It actually does have a name. It's called By the Seaside.
Oh,
which you kind of get when you hear it, right?
Right.
So anyway, so they fold up the flag into the triangle, and then the guy hands it to the wife, widow, and says, on behalf of the United States, thank you for your service, which is a real tear jerking kind of a moment. My wife was crying. I had a little tear running down. It was kind of emotional, and then you hear
again.
Yeah, she hadn't turned it off. She didn't turn it off.
No,
she didn't even turn it off.
Holy moly! Oh, so see now I need a kind of a description. Was she elderly? Did she have that excuse? Do you know what elderly are like? Like my old man, he's terrible with WhatsApp and all that kind of stuff. He hasn't got a clue, and I guess he gets a bit confused.
And the thing was that this time she didn't. I think she panicked and didn't even try to turn it off. She just shoved it in a bag and tried to close the bag, as if to kind of hide it, right? But it was too loud. And then her husband was like, "For fuck's sake, could you turn that off?" And then she got in the bag and turned it off. There we go.
Were they elderly? Did they have at least that excuse?
I mean, middle-aged.
Normal. Oh,
middle-aged. Middle-aged. Right. Well, with
hideous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, with that fun story, welcome to ADHDville. I'm gonna have a sip of tea.
Little story about funerals, strange ringtones, tick tock, strange ringtones.
When you would buy ringtones for your phone, there'd be all those adverts in mags and stuff.
Yeah,
you could buy them. Anyway,
hello, I'm Paul Thompson and I was diagnosed with a combined ADHD and the D 8 months ago.
And I'm Martin West and I was diagnosed in 2013. So that's a bunch of months ago. Okay, so we're just two mates who, by coincidence, after 39 years, actually knocking on 40 years of friendship together, discover the co-ADHDers. Hurrah! Now, it's really important to say that this is an entertainment podcast about adult ADHD and does not substitute for individualized advice from qualified health professionals. No. So do not take any advice from us. We're just here as a kind of all-inclusive ADHD park bench with room for everyone, including your doppelgangers, your alter egos, your buddy doubles, your chaperones, and your best buddies. Still here, great. So grab your jetpacks, your pedalos, your space hoppers, or any other transportation methods, and let us take you to ADHD, an imaginary town where we've created in our minds, where we like to explore different parts of the A, D, H, and the D. Everyone in the town square, loving it. And we
Okay.
start off, as always, at the town hall in the mayor's office, where we, the joint mayors of ADHD, take care of business. I'm just checking my notes here for the agenda for this week's meeting. And we have three. Ooh, what is that? Oh, that's my alarm
That's your
clock. Go
ringtone
away.
going off.
Oh
Is it your
no, that's
ringtone?
my 10 a.m.
Oh, okay.
alarm.
Okay.
So one thing we are going to talk about is we've got ADHD and depression. That is our subject title for today, right? I'm just
Yes.
looking at Paul's face, just making
Mm.
sure that we are on the same page.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely.
All right. And then after that, we've got some. You know what? I'm going to do it first. Hair news. Obviously,
Yes.
I've shaved off all my hair
Yeah.
on my face, and you've
Yeah.
kind of gone pretty damn short yourself,
I've
Mister
gone of
T.
buzz cut it. As we were
Yeah,
just saying before we came on, I got to the point where it felt like the hair as it was. It kind of like it was trying too hard
right.
to hang on to any kind of remnants of kind of virility.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
at some
It's
point
like
you just have to
it's
kind of
like
like accept, right?
yeah, because like we grew up like making fun of old men with the comb over. Then I
Mm-hmm.
suddenly realised that my hair, it was just a comb back. It was just like it was a comb back,
All right.
not a comb over.
Come
It was a
back,
comb
dum, dum,
back.
dum. Come
Come
back to
back,
where you
come
once.
back.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
exactly, come back. So yeah, it was just trying too hard, so it went
It went. And
down the
oh,
toilet, to be more precise.
oh, Jesus, hairy toilets.
Well, because otherwise the sink would get blocked up with hair, so it got
Right.
it got
Okay.
scooped up and put down the
All right.
pointless detail, but I don't know.
Pointless detail. Well, I'm currently I'm currently doing interviews, so off went the beard because it actually it takes my age down by
A notch.
by a notch, which in this game, so I work in advertising. I think the average age for someone working in advertising is something like 28 or something.
Really?
Yeah, it's like it's in the high 20s. That's the
Because
average.
they don't survive on the front line for that long, do they? Not like us
No.
that did. We're like knocking on 40 years of 35 years of being on the front line.
Yeah. So yeah, but I'm still there. I'm still there. So
Good
yeah.
stuff.
So that's why I don't have a beard. And then when I get a job, the beard will no doubt return.
Okay, we look forward to
Like
that then.
I know. All right, and then the third thing on the agenda, which we'll finish up, is a little segment I call Saint Stuff,
Right.
which
Okay.
which
I'm just reading that now.
yeah, which I know because I was around our friends for Memorial Day. We got very into the saint that lived or stroke died in your house, right?
Literally behind this wall that you're looking
Yeah,
at now, if you're on YouTube's, on the
on the
wall behind
YouTubes.
me right now, well, she's a saint in waiting.
Right.
She
And
died behind that wall.
right. So we're going to get into that because this has
Right.
fascinated
Okay.
my friends yesterday. So we'll get into that. All
Okay.
right. Then okay. So where shall we head for our chat about
Well, I think
ADHD and depression?
the ringtone. What was it called? What was the ringtone called
At
that was at the funeral?
by the seaside.
By the seaside. Let's go to the seaside then. It's like
All right. Yeah, because
let's call that a
ADHDville
segue. Let's call that a
ADHDville
segue, shall we?
is on the beach. Is a coastal town, which I don't think that we've ever actually pointed
We
that
haven't
out
mentioned that,
before.
have we? Yeah.
No, but we do have like a little beach area. So let's go and get the car around and
But it's
head off
not. It's not
to
like
the beach.
Coney Island. Yeah. Don't. It's not like Coney Island, though, is it? Or Blackpool Beach.
No,
It's a bit
it's
like it's a bit chilled and.
yeah. I'm thinking like it's somewhere in. It's like if you've ever been to Devon or Cornwall.
I
It's
was thinking the same.
it's kind of there.
I was thinking the same.
St Austell, I think,
Or Woolacombe,
or
Woolacombe
Lewis
Bay. Oh
around.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's very much like that. All right,
nice.
let's jump in. Summer
Nice.
vibes,
Summer vibes.
reverb tail. All right, who wants to kind of who wants to kick off?
Well, I'm going to kick off like saying we do like at the top of the podcast. We do say this was very specific about it. This being an entertainment podcast because this theme is ADHD and depression. So
Mhm.
it's muddy. It's potential hurdles and pitfalls.
Right.
Talking about this stuff. This is just our personal. These are just about personal opinions. We're not telling anyone that we've got like solutions or answers to any of this. Just
No,
our
this
opinions.
this is an entertainment podcast, and there's nothing
Yeah.
more entertaining than depression.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's get into that then. Have you got a definition? You're usually quite good at definitions.
Oh, well, I kind of don't, only because
Right.
I think we're fairly familiar with
Right.
depression, but it's interesting that it's very strongly linked to ADHD.
Yeah.
It's like one of the kind of biggest of the
Comorbid
comorbidities.
conditions I've got written here.
Yep.
The
Yep.
depression and ADHD are distinct, but they are sometimes connected,
Yep.
as in comorbid conditions. People who have ADHD are more likely to experience depression. People with ADHD sometimes experience low mood, poor self-esteem, and other problems with self-image because their traits make it more challenging to manage the expectations of a neurotypical society.
Oh, I know.
Full stop.
Right. I
Right.
know. I would have to say I've got here that more than half of people diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder will experience depression in their lifetime.
Have you got wind, Martin?
And also, for other people, about 30 to 40% of individuals diagnosed with depression also have ADHD. So very much intertwined.
Intertwined. Yeah. I think what kind of in terms of introducing a subject, I've always thought from a personal point of view, emphasis on personal point of view. There's also been a hell of a lot of misdiagnosis with ADHDs, right? And the older we get, so we're in our late 50s. I've heard horrific stories about people in their late 50s and 60s who have been potentially diagnosed for years and years and years with depression, bipolar disorder, or even have got written here oppositional defiant disorder as well.
PDA is also cool.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just some of the stories you hear are just horrendous.
Stop.
Because for me personally, it was much more about. I was once offered medication for depression, and I turned it away personally because I think instinctively I always knew that that wasn't it. I just knew.
I think
it
my
wasn't it.
first therapist that I went to was pushing that.
Okay.
Pushing a background, what she called a low level background depression.
Right.
But yeah, like you, I kind of felt like, yeah, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah. It's like,
Doesn't
oh,
quite jibe with me.
yeah. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
square peg, round hole. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Because I think it was just a lot. To me, it was more about. I think when I looking back, benefit of hindsight, it was another. It was like frustration, anger, and just like pure mental exhaustion for me on my part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And getting to like a peak in that in all that kind of crossed all three of those, frustration with not feeling like I was part of a tribe, not fitting in, just feeling different and weird, and wanting to settle, and like, oh, why can't I settle? Why can't I just be like normal people that don't actually
Mm-hmm.
exist? But anyway, in my head, it's like, oh, why can't I just be like normal people and just like settle for something? Um,
Yeah.
so
No, I
yeah.
mean, so yeah, you get all these, it so often gets misdiagnosed, right? That you think
Mhm.
it's depression, you get treated for that, but it's actually the underlying ADHD, and that's
Mhm.
especially true for women um, who
Mm.
end up because we have these outdated gender stereotypes.
Yep.
It leads to women being diagnosed with depression instead of ADHD, which is not great.
No.
Um, Especially because you know, um, when it comes to unaliving yourself, as it were.
Mhm.
Um, so what we got here is that according to a recent decade-long study, the rates of depression and unaliving were much higher for women in all groups. The longest study of this kind found that 68% of women with ADHD were diagnosed with major depression as compared to 34% of women without ADHD. Disturbingly, the rate of unaliving among women with ADHD was found to be 3 times higher than it was
Wow.
for neurotypical groups.
Yeah.
So lots of
Yeah.
reasons to
Well,
kind
I
of
wonder
pay
if a
attention to it.
part of that may be, and I'm literally just thinking out loud. Um,
Dangerous. We're
yeah,
in dangerous
dangerous. Yeah, I'm feeling
territory.
dangerous today. Really,
All
very
right, come on
dangerous
then,
territory. Apparently,
give it to
women
me.
suffered more during the lockdowns. It's because women feel like they, rightly or wrongly, that they've been given the responsibility for looking after people, generally taking care of people, and the COVID and the lockdowns took that away. They're like just not able to do what they were kind of like supposed to do. So you can imagine the women. You double that up,
Oh,
to increase that kind of overload with also having ADHD. You can imagine that, like, blimey, cope in terms of coping for women, it's maybe different
right. So
because
if you're
women
out,
generally are
if
coping more with families and juggling families because they're generally given that. I'm not going to say whether they're better or should be or any discussion like that. Just generally are.
all right. So if you agree
Is
with
that
that or you're outraged
yeah
by that, go and tell us in the
yeah? But
comments.
does that make sense to you? Do you want to jump
You know
in
what?
the mud
I
in the mud bath with
No,
me on that one?
I am not jumping into that particular mud bath.
Right.
Personally, I'm just going to skirt around it somewhat. Um,
Okay.
but because I I I actually don't know all of the psychological impacts that the lockdown had. I mean, like, it was a
Yeah.
very weird time, so there was a lot going on, and it's
I
very
think they're going to be
messy.
unpacking it for years. They're going to be unpacking
Oh
it for
yeah,
like
no,
20
this
years.
it's already had such a huge
Yeah.
impact and will continue to for, yeah, as you
Yeah.
say, for
I've seen
decades.
it in my kids, my students at school.
Oh yeah.
I was listening to a BBC documentary on the radio last week about it. It's been a huge increase in anxiety and depression since COVID, and
Right.
I can see it in with the children at school
Yeah,
massively.
because they had a whole chunk where they weren't where they would be socializing with their friends, and they kind of
Yeah,
weren't really. So there was a lot
there's a
of
kind of a pattern
missed
amongst
stuff.
the students. They come by their own admissions because they've told me they've become kind of control freaks. And my interpretation is that that COVID, a lockdown, just was so destabilizing that they felt like they weren't in control of something. So now they become, when they can control something, they kind of exaggerate somewhat. Kind of their need for control has become exaggerated.
Right.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
go back to the research. You were talking about numbers, percentages, Martin. Is that
I was.
amongst, because there's a lot of information about that, about children and teenagers and adolescents with depression, to the figures and percentages, and young adults. But I couldn't find anything to do with mature adults at all, other than I've got here, there's an estimated 6.5 fold increase in the risk for depression within the first year after ADHD diagnosis.
Right. Well, this was this just to say this was a 2020 study called under depression and suicide behavior in young adult men and women with ADHD.
Okay.
So young women I'm
Yeah.
referring to. So I'm not entirely. I mean, without having to go into the whole thing, I don't know what that age range was, but
Yeah.
I felt like it crossed over into the world of adults. So I felt good about saying it out loud.
Okay. Okay.
I've got some. I've got some ADHD and depression. Some key distinctions. Some things where we can prize them apart,
Right.
as it were. So I can.
Okay. Go prizing. Go for it.
All right. So one of them is one of the reasons why they get tangled up so much is that ADHD, as we know, is there's part of it which is a emotional dysregulation part of it, which a lot of clinicians, the medical people are not looking for that to be part of ADHD when it actually is pretty much a hallmark. So we have to look at it as a sort of a mood disorder, right? So the differences between ADHD and depression, one of them is that ADHD is not triggered by events. So if you have like something sad or bad, or you lose your job, that would be an event, and then that would trigger depression. But it may not. But ADHD kind of like runs 24/7, right? With the depression, you have like a gradual onset over several weeks or months, which can persist uninterrupted for several weeks or months, and have a gradual resolution over many weeks or months. Whereas ADHD again is like much more
right.
permanent.
Yeah, because I've got here, there's like definitions of what would be called. Well, I've got a definition of, if it goes beyond 2 weeks, it's actually called major depressive disorder. So it goes on from.
Hang on a second. I've got really weird clicky audio.
So yeah, back in the room, bit of a technical glitch there. So back in the room. So yeah, I've got there's actually like depression is kind of defined. Go to Wikipedia or anything, like defined in a general kind of mental state of low mood and aversion to activity, etc., etc. affects more than 280 million people of all ages, which represents about up to 4% of the global population. And then there's major depressive disorder, which is generally defined as any kind of form of depression that lasts more than about 2 weeks.
I have roughly 6 to 7% of Americans will have
Ooh,
a
blimey.
depressive episode in any
Yeah,
given year. The highest rate,
right,
12%, or 1 in every 7 women every year,
right.
and
And
occurs among women 40 to 60.
I think it's way more than that, actually.
Yeah, could be.
I think
Could be.
if there's any good thing, we're going back to the COVID thing again. If there's any, and actually, I had this conversation with a colleague of mine today at work. If there is something good that came out of COVID, is that there's less stigma involved around people being able to say, "Yeah, I suffer from depression every now and again." Less stigma. Everyone seems to be given permission to say, "Yeah, me too." Yeah, absolutely.
You know what? I was just reading here. It says, mood disorders, of which depression can be. I guess one of those is that they are very painful. It says here a study done in the mid-70s at the National Cancer Institute asked people living with end-stage cancer and who had previously had a depressive episode which one was more painful. 98% said that depression was more painful than terminal cancer.
Blimey, mind's
Mic,
blown.
mic drop.
Mind officially blown. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember when my main probably only I had like I only started having like major depressive kind of like episodes or periods in my mid 40s, I suppose, that some people would call a midlife crisis, which I actually really hate that expression. Anyway, I remember physiologically, I remember just like having a really tight chest all the time, and just like feeling like my breathing was
Your pecs were like
incapacitated. My
super
pecs,
tight.
they were tight. They were like, yeah,
Oh.
they were tight as, and just like constant feeling of just, I don't know, like, I don't know, kind of like, ooh, it's really hard to describe. Evidently, yeah, I remember pain, physical pain. I
Oh
remember it
yeah.
very
No,
much.
I've yeah. It definitely comes at me in the form of pain. Yeah, for sure. Like a physical part, it has a definite physical part to it as well, which is
But
kind of
I
weird.
must admit, I was really glad. I wish maybe I had depression, in earlier in life, but I think I kind of blocked it out in my mind. And I think I kind of like my way of masking and blocking these kind of thoughts. I just like trudged on, and very British kind of mentality of like, okay, carry on,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just don't stop. There's nothing happening here. Carry on. And it's just like very British way. And
Yeah.
until it wasn't okay, and I got to my mid 40s, and it's like the wheels fell off because
Oh.
I hadn't looked after it. Didn't give it space. Didn't give it mental space at all. To think, okay, where are you going, Paul? What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Until it became way too late to kind of like it just like all came up in one go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean,
yeah,
there definitely feels like there's a component of it which is like, which is the yeah. There's a sort of there's a sort of, like when you have ADHD for so long, and as you're saying, you have anxiety for so long. and
Mm.
then that kind of gets you down because it's very draining, right? And
Yeah.
then it kind of builds up and builds up. And as you say, you get to your mid-40s or something, and then the
Mhm.
wheels fall off.
Mhm.
And you can see why that feels like depression, because it kind of is, right?
Mm.
Because it's this
Yeah, yeah, totally.
anxiety, this exhaustion that you get from just trying to
Mm.
get up and go and do your thing every day.
Mhm.
With
Right.
undiagnosed ADHD,
Exactly.
and as
Mhm.
you were saying earlier on, it's like, why can't I just fit in with this,
Yeah.
with everyone else? Why
Yeah.
why am I struggling so
Yeah.
hard all the time?
And then what happens? You give it a name, and all of a sudden, it's like, oh, like the world opens up. Um, I had a conversation with someone in my family recently because I hadn't really discussed my ADHD. Well, I haven't discussed it at all with anyone in my family yet. But anyone who doesn't know this, I live in Italy and I'm from the UK. So I don't get to see my family very often at the moment. But I did have a conversation with someone in my family, actually my sister, because she has been on like antidepressives for a very, very long time, and then she stopped, and then she was suggested to go back onto them again, and I said, "Really? So I told her my recent story of being diagnosed with ADHD, and have suggested to her that she get a diagnosis as well, because we talked about it on the phone, and in a way, like me and my sister, we've never had this discussion ever in our lives before, and the more that she talked about her personal traits, the more it was like, oh, hello, that's not depression. Well, it is depression, but that's just the outcome.
Right.
And so I'm hoping she hasn't got back to me yet. So if you're listening, Jane, in Spain, get back to me, give me a call, because like, I want to know what's happening with that. That'd be really cool to find out. Because I think that could be a serious benefit for her.
Right. Yeah. 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 Because it's so hard, right? Because depression is like, part of it is this, like, is that your outlook turns bleak, and it's like, why bother? Why should I
Yeah.
bother trying to help myself? And it's like so
Mm,
difficult to pull yourself up off the floor and
yeah.
and sort yourself out. It's
Yeah.
it's it's
There's
it
also,
ain't easy.
from a guy's point of view, if you with your going back to midlife crisis thing, there is an element. I have to say, in my personal experience, when men were kind of like mocked a bit about a midlife crisis, mocked and made fun of midlife crisis, I actually think it's a really serious thing that should not be mocked at all. It's like, the cliches, stereotypes. Oh, gone out and bought a two-seater sports car or a Harley Davidson, or all of a sudden you spent $10,000 on kitting out your garage with gymnasium equipment. But by the way, I didn't do any of those things. But it's become a bit of a point of like mockery, for middle-aged men, and I didn't know it at the time, but looking back, it really got really pissed me off, that kind of mockery, because actually is
Mm.
actually a real thing. But some people say that men experience what's called andropause. That actually shows up, women as menopause. It's much more widely known about. And talked about even, but there's actually some say that there's this thing called andropause, that there's a significant drop for middle-aged men and in their 50s and above, significant drop in testosterone,
Oh
which could
yeah.
seriously affect all kinds of things. So you imagine mixing that up with, if you have a late diagnosis with ADHD, masking, dopamine, all of these kind of things. And you also got in the mix there a significant drop of testosterone, everything that comes with that,
Yeah, my
loss of
my
hair,
my
for
my
instance.
my doctor, um, he prescribed testosterone support
Okay.
at one point.
Uh
He
huh.
was like, "Well, I think you should have testosterone. It will give you some joie de vivre." He said,
I was going to say, was your doctor Charles de Gaulle or something?
"No, no. I mean, as I've said before, he was the doctor. If you've ever seen the
Oh yeah,
documentary Supersize Me, he's the doctor in that, and he kind of
right.
speaks like that. You know, it's a
Ah,
very. You
and
need some testosterone. It'll give you some
right.
vavavoom. Yes, 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 yes.
Really, he was
Um,
like that.
he was. He is exactly
Okay,
like that. He's a character. Anyway, and I went on that for a while, so I had some. I went for the gel, right? So it comes in various ways,
right.
and gel is. I think you can either inject it, which I didn't fancy, or you could put on this stuff, right? So I'd
Right.
have to kind of go into the bathroom, put this stuff on me, make sure I really wash
Right.
my hands really well because I didn't want to transfer
Right.
hormones around the place. But to my wife, right?
Stinking of hormones.
Right, she doesn't need
Reeking.
any testosterone in her life.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I
right.
did that for a while. Didn't really do a thing for me. I don't remember.
But why
So
did you need it? Why did you think you needed it?
well, because I was talking about all this stuff to my doctor, and he was like, "Oh, yeah,
Okay.
perhaps what this is a lack of testosterone, so that
Right.
may fix your problems." But
Right.
at that point, I didn't know I had ADHD. This is
Uh,
pre-diagnosis, so
okay.
so
Many
I was
moons
like,
ago.
okay, many moons ago. So I went, okay,
Because I've personally only noticed the drop in my kind of energy in the last 3 4 years. We are now 50, coming up to 57. So I didn't, you know, in I didn't have any sense of kind of loss of drive or energy at all until quite recently.
right,
But so yeah, I think it's ever often these things are better sorted
yeah,
out with exercise and things like that, eating properly,
yeah. All right, and on that, I've got
healthy
some
living.
things that might help. Um, so basically, if you are feeling like you are in an unaliving place, go and seek help. And there are plenty. Oh, there's a little
Mm.
doggy.
The little
Um,
doggy, it's Rudy.
yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Go and seek help in your own country, from wherever you're.
Mm-hmm.
Just go and speak to someone. Um,
Yeah.
so there
I
are.
would just add on to that. If you can, try to avoid just picking someone randomly. Maybe talk to some friends. Maybe hopefully you're already having healthy conversations with close friends about depression and this kind of thing. And so maybe get a referral by someone who's like, oh, this guy is really good, or that helps. That helps a lot.
Right. Yeah. Find the right person for sure. I
Yeah.
know there is certainly, and there's also psychological therapies for ADHD and depression. I can't kind of go into them because that would require too much time. But there is like cognitive behavioral therapy. That's quite a common one
Mm-hmm.
for treatment. There's also acceptance and commitment therapy, which is a little bit like CBT, but there's also interpersonal therapy, IPT,
Mm-hmm.
and dialect behavior therapy. There's also there's meds
Mm-hmm.
as well that can help. There's a whole bunch of them, but which I won't go
Yeah.
into. But there is help. There is a lot of help out there, whether it's meds or
Tons.
whether it's
Yeah.
therapy. So
Sometimes you
it's
can just start by putting your hand up and saying, you need
I
help.
need help. Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
because that's the hardest thing when you're
yeah,
in a depressive state, is that you just kind of go, I can't be bothered. I'm just gonna why it's there's no point
yeah,
in helping myself, but there
yeah.
is.
And then you end up just ramping up the masking, which I did a lot. I think I
Hmm.
masked depression a hell of a lot, suppressed it until it
Yeah,
like that's a really bad thing to do, is suppressing depression.
yeah,
Really, really bad. One thing you can do, which actually is more than what you, it's actually something you can avoid doing. You avoid alcohol. That's really bad. It's just like a good place to start, or at least reducing it.
right, yeah. All right. So I think there is. I think is there anything else that you want
I
to
don't
add?
think so. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I'll just add to the comment about the advice about finding the right psychologist. I've had 3 psychologists in my life. Actually, the best one I found was she was a low cost psychologist, and she was freaking amazing. She was
All
amazing.
right.
She was low cost because I had a lot of people don't go for consultancy, go to see a psychologist because of money. You think, I just don't have the money. I don't have the money to for like $100 or 80 or £100 a week. So that's £400 or dollars a month for a psychologist. Actually, I found a low cost because I needed to at that time, a low cost psychologist, and she was amazing,
All
amazing.
right.
So
Yeah, there's also
yeah,
online options as well, so you don't even
hmm,
and they can be very reasonable, and you don't and you can do it from your own home. You don't have to kind of go to their
yeah,
office or anything. So
yeah.
there's there's some nice options
There's
out there. All
options
right.
out there, and actually, sometimes if you can find that money, if you money is tight, it it can be a massive investment.
Yep.
Investing in self care,
All
never a
right.
bad thing.
Cool. Let's jump into the car. And we're gonna head off to the post office. Um, so let's just get that old beast around and head
Yes,
off.
just crank her up again.
All right. In the post office. I do actually have because I was talking to my sister-in-law over the weekend, who listens to our pod. So holy moly,
Oh, nice.
yeah, that was a shock. Um, so
Why was
she,
it a shock?
well, because like you don't expect people that you know to listen, right? So I have a few friends who they'll say, oh yeah, I've like my friend Seth, he'll be like, "Yeah, I think I've caught up with all of the podcasts."
Really?
Yeah,
Cool. That's
like
great.
listening
I've not
to them
had that
all.
because my friends are Italian. Most of my
All
friends,
right.
at least obviously in Italy, most of my friends are Italian. So they would. I know of a couple of my friends who speak fluent English. They speak for English very well, and they do listen to the podcast. Yeah, yeah.
Nice. Anyway, she was describing our pod to um, uh, her brother. Was saying, "Oh yeah. It's like two chilled English guys, and that's the vibe.
Chilled,
Well, just kind
really.
of just
All
laid
right,
back and just
all
being
right.
chit chatty
I'll
like
take that. I'll take
that was the
that. All
vibe.
right, nice.
All right. On the downside, that episode we did an episode on stimming a while back,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, has Paul died?
No.
Oh no, he's coming back. He's coming back gradually. I can hear the audio.
Hello. Yes. I've not
Anyway,
died. I'm
so
here.
she
Yep.
said that hello. She said that she had to stop listening to the stimming episode because she was starting to stim too much.
Right. Wow. We're triggered. We're triggering people.
Yes, we were triggering.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, there we go.
There we
That's another
go.
So yeah, if you have any comments, no, this is your bit where you
Yeah, so
say,
it says your feedback is vital to us, and we read all the comments, and we might read out yours on a future podcast.
right. So come on, get
Come
that
on.
feedback in, or those questions. All right. So for our last segment, which I promised, which was called which we called Saint stuff.
Yes.
We're going to head back to the mayor's office, and we're going to talk about the saint
Oh,
that
okay. All right.
lives behind in the room behind you.
Okay. It's a bit of a surprise for me. Okay.
All right. Well, I did warn you that I was going to have a couple of questions. So just
Yes.
to recap, I spent the day with Seth and Michelle, our friends, and we were all there, and my wife, and the subject of the saint that lived in the room
Mm.
next to you
Well, she's a
came
saint in waiting. She's a
right.
saint in waiting. But she's
So
been waiting, to be fair, she's been waiting for about 300 years.
right. So this is. Hang on. I feel like I should have some saintly
Okay.
music going on in the background. Um. So her name was. What was her name?
Stefana.
All right.
Stefana Quinsani.
All right.
She lived until about something. It was about the 1470s,
Right.
which is bang in the middle of like medieval period.
Right. So you're hanging out in a house that is at least as I mean, how old's the house that you live in?
I think it was built. Well, given that she lived, well, it's from the 1400s.
Right. So there
Yeah.
we go. Um. All right. So these people had some questions that they wrote out on a piece of paper. Here we go.
Oh,
Look, this is
crikey!
the piece of paper
Wow,
of
beautiful.
of questions for you about our
Okay.
saint in waiting. So
Oh, okay.
if you don't know, there is a bit of a process to becoming a saint, and one
Hmm.
of those is called beatification or
Yeah.
something, where the church kind of recognizes all your amazing life. So
Yeah.
that's like a step in the right direction.
Exactly.
Um,
Well, literally the road that I live in is called Beate Stefana Quinsani.
oh, okay, there
So
we go.
the whole road is named after her pre-sainthood,
Right. Okay.
right?
So here's a couple of random questions because their minds were blown about this. Question number
Okay.
one:
Yes, far
who
away.
has the key to the
Hmm.
saint's room?
Oh, okay. The vicar, the
The
local
vicar
vicar,
has the key.
the local priest. Yeah,
All right, and
yeah,
so he opens it up like
yeah. On her
every
birthday.
on a birthday.
Yeah,
Okay, and then
which
so
is the
what?
4th of January, I think.
Right. So and then
Well, actually, if it's only if someone actually makes a request, they feel obliged. If someone wants to make a pilgrimage, literally a pilgrimage, to visit her, pay their respects to her
all right,
on her
and
birthday, they could call the local vicar, the priest, and say, "Can we go? Can we go? Can we walk through Paul's house into his courtyard, go up the stairs, onto the balcony, and enter into the room where she died, which is the
all
only
right,
room in the house that we're not allowed to use or live in."
right. So that's question number four. Um, what happens when people are coming round your house?
Well, I haven't seen anyone yet. It
Oh,
hasn't
okay.
happened yet, in my
Oh, okay.
experience.
All right.
Yeah.
Question number 2 then is: have you ever been in that room?
No, but I was thinking about this, and because I knew that you were going to ask me some questions, and I had a suspicion that you would ask me this. I might, I might put this on a TikTok video, me opening the door to her house, or
Fantastic.
yeah,
We want to see that room.
I've
We
never
want to
even
see the.
tried the handle of the door to see if it
Oh,
is locked.
you are so uncurious.
It just
Unbelievable.
out of disrespect. Also, no, there's another reason. It's usually
Okay.
full of pigeons, and it's like,
Okay.
and it's like I don't know. In my mind, it's just full of
Right.
pigeons and pigeon crap and stuff. I don't think it's very
Okay.
well looked after, unfortunately.
Right. I
Yeah,
think that
to the shame of the priest.
you should definitely try that handle.
All right.
Uh, Next question: do you get a discount on the rent because you don't have access to that room? What do you think?
Wow.
Do you?
Okay. Right. Okay. Well, I mean, it's really cheap. I mean, it's a beautiful house, and I don't know, it's about 200 square meters. It's quite it's an entire house, um, and it's ridiculously cheap. I mean, ridiculously cheap. Um, just because the priest is really nice, but I don't think that's a reason. I don't think the fact that we have to have an open day where on her birthday that we have to allow people through. I think the priest is just really charitable. He's really just nice guy.
All right. So, next question, which I think refers to you going into the room.
Ooh,
This is the question, right?
yes.
Do you become a werewolf if you enter the room?
Oh, well, I'll let you know.
All your hair will grow back. You'll be like, oh god,
No.
I just had all this cut off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Jesus.
I don't
All
know.
right. And then as far as people coming around, the
Hmm.
next question is, what happens if this woman becomes a saint? So if she
Right. I
becomes a
hope she
full
doesn't.
blown saint,
I hope she doesn't because if, like, you know, the Shroud of Turin,
mm-hmm.
right? The house where that I well, jokingly, really ironically, I used to live opposite the house that contained the Shroud of Turin in Turin, obviously,
Blimey.
literally opposite.
All right. That's
And
cool. So
I didn't
like if
realize
you
it. I was living there for about 2 years, and I came out of my doorway. There's this beautiful historic palazzo in Turin, and I looked straight ahead of me. It's like, oh, the Shroud of Turin is like right opposite my house. I didn't realize it for years.
all right.
Anyway, yeah,
And you just thought that it was a place for rugs,
yeah, or tea
right?
towels.
Yeah.
I just like
Or
the tea
trinkets.
towel kind of like thing. No, so what was your question? Oh
It was
yeah,
like, so if she became a
yeah, because I
saint,
think there will be pilgrimages to the house. So the Catholic Church, the Vatican Church, they would like, oh, let's cash in,
right?
and probably where I'm sitting now will be, you know, a museum shop full of trinkets and
Well,
souvenirs.
I was gonna say. So my next question is: can you sell merch?
No, but I have
And
suggested it to my girlfriend. So if we will do a deal with the priest to say, look, why don't you just on her birthday, just like get them queuing up, and we could sell cake or something,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
uh, right. And
merch.
then
But we've also
the
got, by the way, inside the house, well,
yes,
above the front door, it's got a sign written in Latin that this is the birthplace. Literally, I mean, it's medieval. The plaque is carved into stone in Latin that this is the birthplace of Stefana Quinsani. And
right,
inside the house, you walk through the front door towards the back, and doorway into the courtyard has a stone cast portrait in profile of her.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
That sounds
You
cool.
can picture that.
So was she born? So was she born and
She
died?
died. No, she died here. She was
Right.
born about 10 kilometers away
All right.
in
Okay.
a place called Orzi Nuovi.
Okay. And then the last question is, any spooky things happen?
No, but usually my dog, my boy Rudy, he's really once the same house that I was talking to you about before in Turin. He once it really spooked me out. He was barking like a mad dog because he is a mad dog at nothing in the room, and it was clearly a ghost, a spirit that he could sense that I couldn't. It was just weird. So, point being, if there was some spookiness going on, he would be on it. So,
All
nothing
right.
yet.
Nothing yet. All right.
Nothing
Watch this
yet.
space. Okay. All right. Well, you have a mission to kind of like see if
Yeah.
you can get your
Okay.
your little
It's
your little
probably not even
bald
locked.
head.
I'll have to. It is weird. I would normally. I'm a very curious person. Normally, I'm very curious. So, and it is strange that I haven't
All
tried the
right.
door. Yeah, what's
All
going on
right.
there? Why haven't I tried it?
I don't know. But see, you see, this is what my
Do you want me to
friends
try it now?
were
You want me
commenting
to
on.
go? Do you want me to go and try it right now?
Well, no. You'd have to go.
All right.
Well, right. I mean, how close is it?
It would take me 4 minutes to go and try the handle. No, 2 minutes to go
All
and try
right.
the handle.
You know
2
what?
minutes.
It's worth it.
I'm going.
It's worth it. Go on. All right. Well, that's Paul. He's now gonna try the handle. So I think I'm gonna cut here. Let me make a note of that. I might not cut it. Who knows? Cut at 32 minutes and 44 on this particular episode. All right. I'm just left here on me Todd. So yeah, if you find this as interesting as I do, let me know, because I'm not a Catholic or anything, but all of this kind of stuff is I find really interesting. Now, I was looking at her life on Wikipedia, this saint, and one thing that stuck out was that she was regarded as ugly, apparently, but she had gorgeous hair, and she was. Oh wait, pulls back. I've successfully filled in.
Yeah, I could hear you all the time. I kept my headphones on, and because they're Bluetooth, I could hear you all the time.
Oh right.
Yeah, she had amazing hair apparently, and
Yes.
she was ugly but had beautiful hair, so she cut it off.
Yeah. Well, I heard that she pulled it out.
Oh yes, pulled it out.
Pulled it out. Yeah, because of course, just cutting it off is not
exactly
is not Catholic enough.
She also claimed from the age of 7, she had a calling from God from the age of 7 to dedicate her life to God.
All right.
Anyway, the door is locked.
All right.
It's locked. It's locked.
Okay.
It didn't even have a little hole that I could look through and see something.
Oh, no. All right.
Yeah, locked.
Well, okay. Well, who knows? Maybe on a future episode, you'll have actually got your face in there. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Alrighty.
Well, I think that just leaves me to say that ADHDville is delivered fresh every Tuesday to all purveyors of fine podcasts. Please subscribe to the pod and rate us most saintly.
Most saintly, yeah.
And feel free to correspond at will in the comments. But wait, there's more if you wish to see our beautiful faces then you
Oh.
can sally forth to the
Or
YouTubes.
Sally Fields.
And you can also pick up a quill and email us at ADHDville@gmail.com. Visit us on YouTube, TikTok, Couple of Friends, Facebook, and Instagram. But in the meantime, be fucking kind to yourself.
And I beseech you, fellow ADHDers, know thyself, sons of the hounds, come hither and get the flesh.
Lamb. Lamb is the flesh of choice, being the
It's
Lamb
just your
of God,
go-to.
I guess.
I love a lamb.
Saintliness.
Yeah, lamb. Oh, yeah.
There,
Yeah.
says the mayor.
Yeah.
That's that.